Part 157. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1561. Xiu remained silent. Nangongyan snorted coldly and looked at the tribesmen behind him again. Every person had demonic energy on their bodies, which kept surging. Go up the mountain. After crossing this mountain, we can find the purest descendants of our ancestors. Nangongyan gave an order, and all the demon cultivators here flew up and climbed towards the top of the valley. But just like the problem Zuyun encountered at that time, the higher you go, the greater the pressure here will be. From time to time, some demon cultivators with relatively low realms fell, but they would still turn over from the ground and continue to climb towards the top of the mountain. On Zuyun's side, the stars transformed from millions of spirit stones were all turned into powder. When the dust settled, all the evil cultivators turned into blood foam and mixed with the dust. But under the feet, it was still shaking. Not as strong as before, relatively speaking, it became more stable. At the same time, the spiritual power from the bottom of the deep pit continued to gush out and then spread throughout the world. Zuyun felt that the restrictions of the heavenly Dao on him were slowly released. Fortunately, if these evil cultivators had come late, I would not be their opponent after the restrictions of the heavenly Dao were released. Thinking of this, Zuyun could not help but feel a lingering fear. However, this also proved from another perspective that the Eastern mortal realm at this time was merging with the spiritual realm, just like the Northern mortal realm. I don't know what will happen to the Western mortal realm and the Southern mortal realm. Zuyun was thinking, but Leng Bing suddenly appeared behind him. Is the Spirit Sword sect okay? Zuyun raised his head slightly and asked. It's okay, Leng Bing said with a smile, except for the commotion you caused earlier, there is no big problem. However, many cultivators of the Spirit Sword sect have made breakthroughs because of the spiritual power here. Oh, there is such a good thing. Zuyun also smiled. There are many talented people in Yunzhou. But it is restricted by the spiritual energy between heaven and earth. If the concentration of spiritual energy is increasing, it is an opportunity for them. This is natural. Leng Bing lowered his head slightly, glanced at the hidden demon flying beside him, and said, even it has become a little stronger, let alone the people who originally belonged to this world. Zuyun sighed, it's a pity that the only ones who are still alive in the whole Yunzhou are probably the cultivators of the Spirit Sword sect. Leng Bing was silent. In fact, when they guessed that the evil cultivators would come out in full force and head towards the major mortal worlds, they all guessed this. Evil cultivators regard mortals as ants. They also regard ordinary cultivators as ants. Life and death are all in their mind. Next, what are your plans? Zuyun turned to ask Leng Bing. I'm wondering if we should go to help the Western mortal realm. The Western mortal realm is where the demon cultivators go. Zuyun nodded and said, okay, Yunzhou is done, maybe, I really don't need to come back in the future. Do you remember the road over there? He was talking about the spiritual world passage. The Eastern mortal realm will certainly be connected to the spiritual world. But the key issue is that if the Western mortal realm is not integrated, he still needs to go to the spiritual world passage here and turn to other mortal realms. Of course I remember, Leng Bing smiled, all the way north. Zuyun smiled, I'll take you on a new road, which should be closer. It doesn't matter. Leng Bing spread his hands. One day later, they crossed the misty forest and came to Chuzhu. Looking at the ground full of cracks and magma bubbling from time to time, Leng Bing couldn't help but marvel. Only separated by a forest, but completely different. This ground, Zuyun said with a smile, it is rumored that Ye Yong smashed it in Chuzhu. Well, he was angry for his beloved. Is it Qiu Linjian? I didn't expect Ye Yong to know Qiu Linjian so early. Leng Bing couldn't help but sigh. The two talked and laughed,
from Chuzhu to Wanyao Mountain, and finally arrived at Peepa Realm. Let's separate now, I want to go there. Outside Wanyao Mountain, Zuyun pointed to the west, which was the direction of Yusha Realm. Then, he told Leng Bing the location of the Lin family's ancestral land. They all saw a lot of cultivators, which meant that this place was not affected by the evil cultivators. Leng Bing, if you can't find the right place, you can ask some cultivators at random, they should all tell you. The way is in your mouth. Leng Bing smiled and said goodbye to Zuyun. He had been to the Lin family's ancestral land, but it was the first time he walked from Wanyao Mountain. Watching Leng Bing leave, Zuyun's eyes also froze. Demon Seal section, I want to see what you are up to. This place is far away from Yunzhou, and the spiritual power has not yet affected this place. Zuyun's realm is still suppressed to the nascent soul stage. There are many nascent souls in the Demon Seal sect, and their magic skills are also very mysterious. It is better to be careful. Zuyun decided to find help again. Naturally, it was Meng Wei. However, he also planned to settle Yezhi and others on the barren stone mountain. With the thought, Zuyun entered the immortal mansion. Meng Wei was standing at the end of the sword mountain, staring at the dragon transformation pool. Are you okay? Zuyun was stunned and appeared on the top of the dragon transformation pool. I just consumed the power of the holy demon, and I was not injured. Meng Wei laughed and said, in my memory, this immortal mansion is still a little unfamiliar, so I will walk around after I recover. Then what did you see in this dragon transformation pond? Zuyun smiled lightly. Ever since Meng Wei and Meng Wei broke through this layer of paper, their relationship has become intimate. Saw a red stone. Meng Wei's words made Zuyun slap his forehead suddenly. I almost forgot that I threw the dragon suppressing stone in at that time, but why couldn't he come out? At that time, he also encountered some accidents in the Qingping Immortal Kingdom, and the dragon suppressing stone demon power was seriously damaged. After Zuyun received it in the immortal mansion, he completely forgot about it. Meng Wei mentioned this, and he couldn't help but jump into the dragon transformation pond. Sure enough, under the bottom of the pool, a piece of red stone was dull, and the demon soul that was finally condensed by the dragon suppressing stone almost disappeared. With a look of shame on his face, Zuyun fished out the dragon suppressing stone and then summoned the power of his soul to turn the dragon suppressing stone into a ball of red light and put it into his forearm. Master, I almost died. The resentful sound of the dragon suppressing stone came. Sorry, I forgot about you. Zuyun was also extremely helpless, and then asked, shouldn't you be fine in the Hualong Pond? Why did you almost die? Zhenlongxi explained weakly, if I enter with a dragon body, even though the dragon power is impure, it will still be recognized by the Hualong Pond. The problem is that I entered with a stone, and I will sink directly into the pond. At the end, I was suppressed by Qi Shui. Master, if you come a little later, I'm afraid you will never see me again. Note, I'm tired today, so I'll take leave as soon as I update. You can support the new book by clicking on my avatar to enter the homepage to see it. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1562. I really didn't remember it, so how do you feel now? Zuyun glanced at Meng Wei beside him. She was covering her mouth and snickering. It still takes this time to recover. Master, please don't let me go to the dragon formation again. In his mind, the lazy voice of dragon suppressing stone came. Also, after being suppressed in the Hualong Pond for so long, it's a good thing that he didn't get crushed to death. Zuyun, are things okay outside? Meng Wei put away his smile and asked. The evil cultivators in the eastern mortal realm are almost dead. I plan to settle the people on the barren stone mountain before going to the Yusha realm. Meng Wei frowned and said, what are you going to do in Yusha realm?
Why don't you go directly to the immortal realm? In the open space of the canyon, countless nightmare monsters were like sharp swords hanging above Mengwe's head, and they might fall down at any time. Do you remember the Nangong family of the Demon Seal sect? Seeing Zuyun say this, Mengwe took a deep breath and thought of Nangong Tianli's name. You mean, the Nangong family is related to Nangong Tianli? Zuyun nodded and said, in the Xianguang sect, Nangong Xiu suddenly disappeared. Fairy Chixia told me that she was picked up by an elder in her family. Fairy Chixia pursued her all the way and finally reached the land of Juyu. No news at all. So you suspect that the Nangong family returned to the East Mortal Realm through the Nine Netherlands and returned to the Demon Seal sect. Mengwei knew about the Demon Seal sect. But that was also what happened after she reached the Yasha realm and returned to the Yaluo demon sect. But a long time passed, and if Zuyun hadn't mentioned it, she might have forgotten it. Yes, Zuyun looked towards the west and said, if I don't take a look, I will always feel uneasy. Besides, your master must still be in the Yasha realm at this time, right? Mengwei hesitated for a long time. In fact, from the bottom of her heart, she did not want Zuyun to stay in this yellow star. It would be best to follow her to the fairy world and be alone. This is selfishness that everyone has. Mengwei is no exception. But Zuyun turned around and said, no buts, Wei, I promise you that after you solve the evil cultivators in the entire yellow star, I will go with you to the fairy world. Oh well. Hearing Zuyun's promise, Mengwei also took Zuyun's hand and said, then, when the time comes, let's go to Yaluo demon sect to see the master. Of course. Zuyun smiled and agreed, and then the two walked into the small courtyard hand in hand. The next moment, they appeared in the universe world. Walk. Although there is no other danger in Huangshi Mountain when entering the universe world, the panic of the mortals on the mountain is bound to exist. After the two people appeared, they quickly flew over there. Sure enough, as Shishi Shan said before, on the edge of Shiji Lake, barren stone mountain is standing there. Go over and take a look. The two flew down to the foot of the mountain and met Yeziyi and Lian Nishang who were coming down the mountain. Zuyun, where is this? He originally thought that Zuyunhui would fly away with the entire barren rock mountain. But I never thought that just in the blink of an eye, I had already changed places. When you come here, you can't get out, Zuyun laughed and said, let me introduce, this is the world of the universe. It is my portable world. Portable world. Yeziyi was shocked, and so was Lian Nishang. Compared with Yeziyi, she got more feelings. Although her dantian was dug, she could no longer practice in the mortal world or the spiritual world. Because I can no longer feel the aura. But in itself, she is a peerless figure with a single fire root, which does not mean that she cannot practice here. Zuyun, you seem to have more than just spiritual power here. Now that he had the opportunity to practice again, Lian Nishang mustered up the courage to ask. Those who can continue to practice, Zuyun smiled slightly and said, my master has brought many disciples, and some of them are even in the tribulation period. Just like you, they all have lost their dantian. Yeziyi stared. In his eyes, Yesuanhua has always been a very ordinary person, even a little greedy for life and afraid of death. But in this world, he can still be a master in the tribulation period. Awesome. Then, can I also practice with your master? Lian Nishang couldn't help but said in surprise. Ha ha ha, it's definitely possible, Zuyun laughed, then raised his hand towards the seaside of the world. Jogun, come over here. Owner. Jogun was very respectful. Don't call me master from now on. It sounds awkward, Zuyun said. Although this is my portable world, in fact, all of you here have made great contributions to where we are today. Jogun remained silent. Okay, you take them to my master and introduce this world to them. Zuyun patted Zhou Gun's shoulder affectionately, thought for a moment, and said, by the way, he is my master's son, Yezhi. Yezhi, he is Zhou Gun. Well, he is not from the spirit world or the mortal world. He is a practitioner different from us. If you have any questions, you can ask him. Zuyun, thank you very much. Yezhi and Lian Nishang said in unison. Zhou Gun also smiled and said, you too, if you have the chance, I will take you to see the Qingping fairyland. Now you'd better follow me. After saying that, Zhou Gun drew out his spear. Only then did Yezhi notice that he couldn't see through Zhou Gun's realm. Moreover, the aura exuded by Zhou Gun was completely different from his. It should be Zuyun who said that there are other methods of cultivation that can be used to achieve enlightenment here, right? Yezhi gently said something to Lian Nishang. The two left, and Zuyun took Mengwei up the mountain. Zhou Ruyu and Yu Yulin are comforting the mortals here. Brother Zhu, are you here? Yu Yulin hurriedly greeted him. But the villagers who gathered together stepped aside for no reason, with deep fear in their eyes. Zuyun knows the relationship between mortal eyes. But what surprised him was that Zhou Xiang suddenly ran out and said, Grandpa Tabo, please take me to cultivate immortality too. After saying that, he knelt down directly on the ground, making Zuyun unable to help but also dumbfounded. Cultivation as an immortal depends on whether you are destined or not. He didn't agree directly, but he didn't refuse either. Jolin was frightened and caught up to him and said quickly, I'm sorry, uncle, it's because I didn't discipline him enough. Zuyun then remembered and frowned, by the way, where are his parents? This. Zulin hesitated and said, back then, I also left in pursuit of the path to immortality, but in the end I disappeared and never came back. Zuyun sighed, thought for a moment, and said, if you want to become an immortal, it's not impossible. As soon as these words came out, all the children cheered up. Looking for the Qingping Immortal Kingdom. If you can find the Qingping Immortal Kingdom, you may have a chance to become an immortal. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1563. Qingping Fairyland? Where is that? When Zulin heard the name of the country, he couldn't help but feel a little worried. Uncle, he is still a child. Is it dangerous to go to such a far place? Hearing this, Zuyun couldn't help but frown. Zulin, when your father went out to find immortals, do you know how far he walked? He was the one who truly crossed the mountains and the sea, and experienced countless life and death. Zulin certainly didn't know what Zufeng had experienced, and was speechless. Let's not talk about cultivating immortals, just talk about the future, your lifespan. I think it won't be long. Then let me ask you, how long can you take care of him? What I can guarantee is that there are no bad people in this world. I can also guarantee that he can reach Qingping Fairyland safely. However, it has never been so easy to cultivate immortals. If he really wants to cultivate immortals, then he will go on a road of 108,000 miles. After that, Zuyun turned his head and looked at the crowd, his eyes fell on those children. There is no immortal gate here. There is only one way to cultivate immortality, that is to go to Qingping Immortal Kingdom. If you can get there, there will be an immortal path. If you can't get there, then just stay on this mountain with peace of mind. The others didn't dare to look at him, but looked at Zhou Ruyu with a slightly pleading look. Don't look at me, Zhou Ruyu, who was also of a very high generation, said lightly, I just don't want to teach people to cultivate immortality, so I gave up the position of the leader of the Lingjian sect. If your children want to cultivate immortality, listen to Brother Zhu. Yu Yulin thought for a while and said to Zhu Yun, "Brother Zhu, how about, I protect them on the way?" Zhu Yun stared at him fiercely. Yu Yulin hurriedly explained, "Brother Zhu, I just want to protect them, not to mention the danger, but what if someone can't stand it and gets hungry and sick?" Zhu Yun was stunned, but he didn't think about this aspect. These children grew up in the mountains, but the road to Qingping Immortal Kingdom is very long. At their speed, it will take at least a year. Seeing that Zhu Yun did not speak, Yu Yulin also relaxed a lot, and then said, "Besides, Ru and I also want to walk around in this world." Senior brother Zhu said there is no danger, so we can be safe and sound and enjoy the scenery. Zhu Yun smiled, then nodded, and said, "As long as you don't help these children with external forces, then you can do whatever you want." He had never thought of restricting Zhou Ruyu and Yu Yulin, so he smiled and agreed. Then, he and Mengwei went down the mountain. They believed that Zhou Ruyu could handle it, so there was no need for him to intervene. When they arrived in front of the world tree, Zhu Yun sat down against the tree. "No accident happened to Xianjing, right? Huangshi Mountain should be called Xianjing Mountain." "Not yet," said the world tree, "there is no accident in the mountain, but I think it is better to let those mortals come down." "Why?" "The power in the fairy crystal is too much for you and me to bear, and the heavenly way here is not as suppressive as the mortal world. Perhaps the fairy day here will slowly release the fairy power, thus affecting those mortals." "Is that so?" Zhu Yun frowned, and in order to be foolproof, he returned to Huangshi Mountain again and asked Zhou Ruyu to take them to the foot of the mountain to settle down. Moreover, Huangshi Mountain was set as a forbidden area, and no one was allowed to enter it at will. "Master, you actually asked me to guard the door." Sango received the task of guarding the foot of the mountain, and he couldn't help but be indignant. Zhu Yun smiled and said, "You are a watchdog, that's your job. For the sake of the immortal crystal. Don't try to get the immortal crystal above, the power inside is not something you can bear. However, if you practice well here, you will be able to achieve the great Dao one day." "Don't paint me a rosy picture," Sango curled his lips and said, "I haven't even reached the demon saint realm yet." "Okay, your lifespan is enough," Zhu Yun pointed to the other side of the world sea and said, "How about you go and worship the totem pole? Are there dogs there too? I am still different from them, they are the ancestral beasts of destiny." After dealing with the rest of the miscellaneous matters, Zhu Yun brought Mengwei to Yasha realm. He didn't want to interfere too much with the future self-development of the great universe world. He believed that the world tree and the world mountain could bring more vitality to the great universe world. "Next, let's go to Yasha realm." Zhu Yun and Mengwei smiled at each other and flew westward. A few days later, they arrived at Yaluo city. The city was still prosperous, but the golden body of Zhu Yun was particularly conspicuous. "Zhu Yun, not bad." Mengwei teased. Zhu Yun touched his nose and said, "It seems that the whole mortal world has it." Mengwei smiled and said, "In fact, I saw it last time I came with Qin Niang, but now, I don't know where Qin Niang is." Zhu Yun also sighed and said, "She has a strong temper. When she was in Qingping Fairyland, she left without saying goodbye." Mengwei stopped talking. Of course, she knew why Sun Qin Niang left. But talking about it now will definitely affect Zhu Yun's mood. The two easily entered the Yaluo demon sect. "Zhu Yun, Wei." Luo Yanran greeted him personally. "Senior Luo." "Master." Facing Luo Yanran, the two were still very respectful. "Your realm, even I, who am in the nascent soul stage, can't see through it?" Luo Yanran said with a smile, and his heart was filled with emotion. When Mengwei was suppressed in the Spirit Sword sect, Zhu Yun was just a child. He was trapped in the Zilang secret realm by Wan Jianren for countless years. But who would have thought that after so many years, everything is different? Just luck. Zuyun said modestly. Luck. Do you think I'm stupid? Luo Yanran pretended to be displeased and said, Yaluo City, Silver Sword City, Devouring Demon City, there are golden statues of you in all the major cities in Yusha realm. You say you are lucky. Zuyun's heart moved, and said, then, is there a golden statue of me in the Demon Seal sect? Yes, Luo Yanran said as a matter of course, it's no exaggeration to say that in Yusha realm, you have more golden bodies than in other places in the mortal world combined. Zuyun was also very surprised and said, there are also in the Demon Seal city. Why, don't you believe it? Luo Yanran dissatisfied, how could I lie to you? There is no benefit for me if I lie to you about this kind of thing. Okay, Zuyun touched his nose and said, Senior Luo, have you heard any news about the Demon Seal sect recently? The Demon Seal section, now that you mention it, I remember that I haven't heard any news from the Demon Seal sect recently. But some disciples talked about it before, saying that the seniors of the Demon Seal sect who went to the spirit world have returned. I don't know if it is Nangongyin and the others. Oh. Zuyun raised his eyebrows and asked quickly, besides this, is there any other information? I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1564. That's not the case, Luo Yanran shook her head and smiled, why, are you looking for Xiu? Apart from Nangong Xiu, Luo Yanran really didn't expect any personnel to be connected with Zuyun. No. Zuyun smiled. What he had to deal with next was definitely beyond Luo Yanran's understanding. He didn't bother to mention it so as not to affect Luo Yanran. After chatting for a while, Zuyun also decided to leave. Luo Yanran personally escorted them out of Yaluo City. Look, Sect Master Luo has appeared. His sect leader Luo seems to be leading two young people. Who are they? A person who even sect leader Luo wants to see off in person must be extraordinary, right? Because Luo Yanran's appearance immediately attracted all the monks nearby. Finally, someone recognized Zuyun. Is that the Xuxian statue in the center of the city? As soon as these words came out, his eyes immediately shifted to Zuyun's face. It doesn't matter if you don't see it, I'm simply shocked when I see it. It's Zhu Xian. Zhu Xian has returned to the mortal world. Oh my god, I have never heard that any powerful person would come down to see us after arriving in the spiritual world. Suddenly, the atmosphere in the city became extremely lively. When Zuyun saw this, he responded with a smile, waved to everyone, and said loudly, you can practice well and don't engage in meaningless fights. Remember Xuxian's teachings. The monks here spoke in unison, and their voices spread throughout Yaluo City. Many monks who were far away rushed towards this place after hearing this voice. Unfortunately, they didn't have the opportunity to see Zuyun, so they had to retreat and worship Zuyun's golden body. The Demon Seal sect is a bit far away from here. Zuyun said to Mengwei, but did not hear any response. Wei. He turned around and saw that Mengwei seemed to be in a daze, so he called out softly. Ah! What's wrong? Mengwei responded quickly. What's wrong with you? Zuyun was a little strange, thinking that she had seen something different with her magic eyes. No, I was thinking. Mengwei hesitated for a moment, then said it, I was wondering why you are reluctant to leave the monks in the mortal world. Zuyun smiled and said, why do you have such an idea? I never said the words reluctant or reluctant. Mengwei sighed, looked behind him, and said, from a utilitarian perspective, these monks trust you so much, and they will definitely provide you with the power of faith. Then, it's not utilitarian. Zuyun did think about it before, but for what he did recently, he didn't think about it this way. Maybe it's because there are already enough people in the universe. Moreover, after a period of operation, I believe there will be more and more people inside. After he broke through to the integration stage, the difference in time flow rate between the universe world and the outside world further intensified. So, he really wasn't too anxious. If it's not utilitarian, Meng Wei took a deep breath and said leisurely, maybe I am the first person to feel the kindness in your heart after you set foot on the path to immortality. It can be seen from this that you are actually a kind-hearted person. People. But the road to immortality is bumpy, so you have to be careful. These words made Zuyun couldn't help but recall the past. In fact, the first time he was taken advantage of was because of Yesuanhua. At that time, Yesuanhua was looking for a substitute who left Lingji unsect. The second time, it would be Sun Qiniang. At that time, Sun Qiniang's sword was already placed on Zhu Rong's neck. But in the end, he chose to let Sun Qiniang go. It's not just the goodness in his heart. It was even more because he discovered the kindness in Sun Qiniang's heart. In the beginning, human beings are inherently good. But after the battle at the Demon Refining Tower in the East Victory Realm, he knows that good and evil are actually only separated by a piece of paper. When my strength reaches a certain level, I can do good. But now, I don't know if my ability can do good for the thousands of people in Yellow Star. Zuyun finally expressed his thoughts and felt relieved. Even he himself didn't know that the only one who could see through the depths of his heart was Meng Wei. Zuyun, Meng Wei chuckled and said, I no longer force you to go to the fairy world with me, you, just do what you want. Zuyun felt happy. Then Meng Wei said again, I will always be by your side. Zuyun was in a good mood and couldn't help but say, then you are saying, if you marry a chicken, follow the chicken, if you marry a dog, follow the dog. What the hell are you talking about? Meng Wei screamed angrily and hit Zuyun's chest with his pink fist. Zuyun grinned stupidly. He was extremely happy to receive Meng Wei's support. The two of them continued to move forward, and as they got closer to Demon Seal City, their expressions became more solemn. Because he guessed the relationship between the Nangong family and Nangong Tianli. It's hard to say, this will be another hard fight. Finally, they saw a city in the distance. It was like a huge heaven-turning seal falling upside down in the city. I wish Yun don't be anxious, I'll check if there is any crisis here first. Meng Wei stretched out his hand to stop Zuyun, and used the power of controlling the holy demon in his eyes. There is no nascent soul stage, the most is the Dan formation stage. With one sweep, Meng Wei removed the power of the holy demon and said to Zuyun. So, Nangongyan and the others are not in Demon Seal City. The two knew that the Demon Seal sect was divided into two categories. One category was the cultivators with the surname Nangong who controlled the core of the sect. The other category was the other disciples. And obviously, these disciples were still in the Demon Seal City. I always feel that something is wrong. They came to find the Nan family, and since there was no one here, they should leave. But Zuyun frowned tightly. What's wrong? Meng Wei was also surprised. She had used her magic eyes to see that without the nascent soul stage, even if all the cultivators here rushed forward, they would not be Zuyun's opponent. After scanning with her naked eyes, she suddenly said in surprise, Zuyun, there is no golden body of yours in this city. Really? Zuyun also found out immediately, remembering what Luo Yanran said, in the entire Jade City, even the Silver Sword City that had a grudge against him had erected his statue, not to mention the Demon Seal sect that had cooperated with him before. The other cultivators would not destroy my golden statue for no reason. I think, it was Nangongyan and his group who did it. Wei, should we go into the city to ask, maybe we can find clues about Nangongyan and his group. You might be too conspicuous if you go like this. Meng Wei planned to let her go to get the news. Zuyun smiled slightly, stretched out his hand to draw a magic talisman to change the world, and pasted it on his forehead. As the spiritual power spread, Zuyun's face suddenly changed. It was cold. Then, the two of them landed and entered the Moyin city, and randomly found a Jindan cultivator. My fellow Taoist, why is there no statue of Zhu Xian here? Zuyun got straight to the point and asked directly. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1565. It seems that it was destroyed some time ago, right? The pill formation stage was originally impatient. Ever since everyone in the Nangong family left, there was no nascent soul stage in the demonic seal city. Naturally, during this period of pill formation, he became the most advanced person in the entire city. But when he saw Zuyun and Mengwei, their auras were far stronger than those in the nascent soul stage that he knew. He swallowed all the impatience in his heart. Some time ago. How long has it been? Could you please tell me, fellow Taoist? Mengwei immediately asked, maybe this can tell the time when Nangong Xiu and the others left. Probably, it's been a month. I don't know where they went. I recalled this period of pill formation, and seemed to have remembered something, and said, yes, it's exactly 1 month, today is the first day of the lunar month. I remember the last morning, I went to a friend to ask for a debt, and I was scolded. You can't ask for money on the first day of the new year. It was also at that time that I heard a noise outside. It turned out that the statue was destroyed. Has it been a whole month? Zuyun recalled it, and counting the time, it seemed that it was still before he set up the great formation at the foot of the barren stone mountain. Yes, it's been a month. He didn't know the origins of the two of them during this period of pill formation. It was just about the statue of Zhu Xian, so he couldn't help but say too much. Since this month, there have been complaints in the city. Many Taoist friends have gone to other cities to worship Zhu Xian. I have a golden body. Only those who have been cultivating in the city for a long time and are reluctant to leave are still here. Zuyun nodded slightly and looked around. Indeed, the monks here were far from being as lively as Yoluo City or even Silver Sword City. Thank you, fellow Taoist. Zuyun said politely and was about to leave, but was held back by Mengwei. Wei, what's wrong? Mengwei smiled slightly and said, don't you want to erect the golden body again? If Senior wants to set up, Junior can help. That Danjichi said quickly. It's not like people in the city haven't had this idea before. Unfortunately, their highest level is only at the Dan formation stage, and no one dares to establish it. They were afraid that the nascent soul stage of the Demon Seal sect would come back and make them angry. By then it will be a trivial matter for the golden statue to be destroyed. But if your life is at risk, there is no place to complain. Now that these two people are taking the initiative to bring it up, it couldn't be better. If you can help, that's not impossible. Zuyun laughed. For him, erecting a statue was nothing. But setting it up for yourself always feels a little weird. Mengwei carefully approached Zuyun and said, if you build a golden body yourself, and then drip blood essence on the golden body, there will be unexpected effects. Zuyun was happy in his heart, but he pretended to be angry on his face and said, why do you have to deal with me? Mengwei smiled sweetly and said, I've told you now, but it may not be effective. It's better to wait until it's established. Zuyun had nothing to do with Mengwei's petty decision. Fortunately, this does not affect the overall situation. Okay, then I'll do as you say. I'll put a drop of blood into it when the time comes. While the two decided to erect the sculpture, they continued to inquire about the departure of the Demon Seal sect people in the city. Most people don't know. But in the Demon Seal sect, those disciples who do not belong to the Nangong family may know something about it. This task was given to Mengwei. She was originally a disciple of Yoluo Demon sect. The relationship between Yoluo Demon sect and Demon Seal sect is actually pretty good. Zuyun took the pill-forming monk and found a blacksmith shop. Old guy, this senior wants to reshape Zhu Xian's golden body. Do you have the suitable materials here? He was not polite when he was in the den formation stage, he just shouted loudly when he entered the door. Zuyun was also surprised that he actually found a weapon refiner during this period of pill formation. You still have a golden body, aren't you afraid that Nangongyin and the others will come back? An old man came out cursing. When he saw Zuyun exuding aura, his expression immediately changed and he quickly bowed to greet him. Zuyun waved his hand casually and said, "No need to be polite, did you just mention Nangongyin?" "Senior, Nangongyin is not only the master of the Demon Seal sect, but also the lord of the Demon Seal city." "Of course I know him," the old man said quickly. Zuyun's eyes widened, and he added a little pressure, saying, "I mean, you mentioned Nangongyin, but when have you seen him?" Under Zuyun's pressure, the old man quickly knelt down and said, "Senior, I'm wrong. I shouldn't have mentioned the name of sect master Nangong, nor should I. Zuyun said coldly, "If I ask you something, tell it truthfully. If you can't tell it, don't blame me for searching your soul." With such a fierce look and a weak heart, even the Danja period who led the way couldn't help but shudder all over. "Is this the same senior who looked so nice just now?" "Yes, yes." The old man said quickly, "Senior, this junior is also a member of the Demon Seal sect, but later he was deprived of his cultivation because he violated the sect's rules and turned to making a living by blacksmithing here. But he really can't swallow the resentment in his heart, so I have been paying attention to the Nangong family, hoping that one day, I can take revenge. It just so happened that on the first day of last month, I saw Nangong Yin. Although he was shrouded in black robes, I still recognized him even if, he turned into ashes. Moreover, he took all the Nangong family members and destroyed the golden body." Zuyun frowned, knowing that the old man might have misunderstood him. If Nangong Yin appeared in the mortal world, he must have returned from the spirit world. And the aura on his body is also different. Zuyun suddenly smiled and said, "Then do you know where he went?" "To be honest, I came here to seek revenge on him." "Seek revenge?" Both the old man and the Jindan period were shocked. Could it be that the senior is also a cultivator who returned from the spirit world? Zuyun glanced at the Jindan period indifferently and said, "Prepare the golden body first. Zhu Xian's golden body is the top priority at the moment." "Senior, don't worry, this matter is in our hands. With Zhu Xian's prestige, as long as it is said that there is a senior willing to establish, there will definitely be 100 responses." Zuyun nodded, and he also roughly knew the reason. Maybe he is afraid of Nangong Yin's revenge? After all, this old man was able to see Nangong Yin destroy the golden body with his own eyes, and there must be other cultivators in the city who can see it. Go ahead and prepare as soon as possible. Zuyun sat aside and closed his eyes slightly. The Jindan stage gave the old man a wink, indicating that he should prepare the materials for making the golden body, and he would be responsible for notifying the Jindan stage in the city. "Senior, do you have any other requirements for the appearance of Zhu Xian's golden body?" Not long after, the old man walked in front of Zuyun and asked carefully. Zuyun didn't know about this, and opened his eyes slightly and said, "Of course, the stronger the better." The old man gritted his teeth and said, "Senior, there are strong materials, but..." "But what?" Zuyun frowned. "But, a lot of spirit stones are needed." This answer was ridiculous to Zuyun. "Spirit stones? I have plenty here." He touched the ring, and countless high-quality spirit stones gushed out. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzwan Xianxia. Chapter 1566. The old man had never seen so many spiritual stones before. He couldn't help but stand there, almost drowned by the spiritual stones. But when he picked it up and took a look, he was shocked again. Top-grade spiritual stone. This is something that is almost impossible to appear in the mortal world. Seeing this, Zuyun smiled slightly and said, "Is that enough?" "Enough, enough." The old man nodded repeatedly, but then he frowned and said, "But senior, I can't refine these spiritual stones." "Do you still need to refine the spirit stone?" Zuyun couldn't help but be stunned. Although the spiritual stones were divided into upper, middle, and lower grades, there were even extremely rare top-grade spiritual stones. But no matter which one it is, the spiritual power in it is the same. The difference in level is just a difference in the amount of spiritual power contained in a spiritual stone of the same size. "Yes, senior," the old man said quickly, "Junior has a method of refining spiritual stones. You can extract the spiritual power from them, and then condense them together to refine the materials again, so that the materials can be of the best quality." "Wait, what did you say?" Zuyun is not interested in the method of refining weapons. On the contrary, the old man mentioned that the spiritual power contained in the spiritual stone was extracted, which shocked his heart. He thought of Barren Rock Mountain. World Tree said that the fairy crystals in the barren stone mountain will slowly release some fairy power. But as for how to solve it, he had no idea. In order not to affect the mortals in the mountain, they had no choice but to let them leave barren stone mountain. Who would have thought that in order to prevent them from leaving their hometown, Zuyun installed the entire village of mortals into the universe world? In the end, they still had to move away. "Can you show me this method of yours?" Zuyun felt something moved in his heart and asked. If the seniors want it, the juniors don't dare to disobey. The little old man took out a torn book without a cover in his arms. Zuyun took it and just glanced at it. He was immediately shocked. But at this time, he couldn't calm down at all, and naturally he couldn't explore the mystery of this method. "Old man, can you give me this book?" "Don't worry, if there are more spiritual stones here, I can give them to you." "Really, really?" Every spiritual stone is like a treasure to the old man, but now Zuyun actually said to give it away. How could he not be excited? But the excitement only lasted a few breaths. The old man frowned tightly and said, "But seniors and juniors can't refine these spiritual stones." Zuyun also thought of the worries that the old man just mentioned, and asked, "Why can't it be refined?" "Senior, I think the spiritual stones you gave me are at least middle-grade spiritual stones. The spiritual power in the middle-grade spiritual stones is purer than the spiritual stones we usually use. The juniors have refined the lower-grade spiritual stones. You need to work hard. I'm afraid I'm powerless with this middle-grade spiritual stone." Hearing this, Zuyun laughed and said, "Old man, don't worry, you can refine these spiritual stones." "Really, really?" The old man was a little worried, but then he thought about it. This senior had just seen his own soul refining method. It shouldn't be a lie, right? His horizons are not broad, and the spirit refining method that he can learn by himself can be learned by his seniors at a glance. It is not a mysterious skill at all. Since the senior said it was okay, he naturally decided to give it a try. Zuyunhan smiled and said, "Of course it is true, but this is not a middle-grade spiritual stone, but a high-grade spiritual stone." Hiss. The old man took a deep breath and couldn't calm down for a long time. It was Zuyun who said, "Get ready. When the golden body is ready, it's time for me to leave." "Yes, senior." The old man closed the door of his shop, leaving only the back door open, and went to the back hall to prepare. Zuyun casually set up an ordinary 9-turn 9-yang formation, sat in it, and opened the spirit refining method. The method of refining spirits is not complicated, but it is true that the scriptures cited above all use spirit stones as examples. In a sense, fairy crystals and spirit stones are actually the same. They are just different levels of power. The method is fine, but does that mean that the fairy power in the fairy crystal can be drawn out just by using this method of attracting spirits? But the biggest question is, after eliciting the immortal power, where should it be placed and what should it be used for? Zuyun completely understood this method of attracting spirits, but he couldn't use it for a while. After thinking for a long time, he decided to put it aside for the time being. Not long after, there was movement outside the house. Zuyun felt it carefully and found that Mengwei was coming here with many monks. "Wei, how do you know I'm here?" Zuyun was very surprised. If Mengwei uses his demon soul, he can indeed feel his position. But Zuyun didn't find any power sweeping through this place. "I saw him." Mengwei glanced to the side, and Zuyun saw the pill-forming period. "Senior," the Danja companion said with a smile. Junior happened to meet Senior Fairy in the Demon Seal section. Who would have thought that Senior Fairy turned out to be a powerful master of Yaluo demon sect? Mengwei smiled and said, "Don't talk nonsense, is the golden body here ready?" Zuyundeo said, "The old man went to prepare. He wants to prepare better, which may take some time." Mengwei thought for a moment, and Zuyun's move was no problem. "But in comparison, shouldn't we pursue the news about Nangongying quickly?" Seeing that Mengwei seemed to be in low spirits, Zuyun asked, "Wei, what's wrong?" Mengwei whispered, "Nangongying seems to have left Yasha realm, and it seems that he went to Peepa realm." Peepa realm? Zuyun felt something was wrong. What was going to Peepa realm for? Go through the main passage of the spirit realm and then go to the spirit realm? But it is obvious that they can go to the spirit realm before the 9 netherworld, so why go to such trouble? Are you sure they went to Peepa realm? Not sure. Mengwei shook his head and said, "These are just guesses from the disciples of the Demon Seal section. Not necessarily to Peepa realm, but definitely went east. Since they brought Jiu'er back from the spirit realm, even if they want to go back to the spirit realm, they will definitely make a big fuss." Zuyun expressed his guess. Mengwei's eyes suddenly tightened, and he said in surprise, "Could they go to the passage between Peepa realm and Yao realm?" When this was said, Zuyun was also startled, and stood up suddenly, startling the group of Jindan stage beside him. "They are inseparable from Nangong Tianli. It is really possible that they went there. Could it be that they want to release all the countless nightmare monsters to cause trouble in the eastern mortal realm?" Mengwei condensed her beautiful eyes, her expression was extremely heavy, and said, "Besides this, there is no other possibility. Wei, let's go." Compared to the golden body, Zuyun cares more about that passage. This may be the most important passage in the entire mortal realm. But at this time, the old man had already rushed over. "Senior, it's all right. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills." Author, Banzwan Xianxia. Chapter 1567. So fast. Zuyun was a little dumbfounded. How much time had passed? Not even an hour, right? It's a bit incredible. "Senior, that's great. Please come with me and see if you are satisfied with the golden body of Zuxian." Now that he was healed, Zuyun nodded to Mengwei without missing a moment, so the two of them followed closely behind the old man. Seeing this, the rest of the Danja stage also followed suit. To Zuyun's surprise, after walking through the main hall and walking into a small room, there was actually a space formation arranged here. There is a lot of space in the hut. A rough statue of more than 10 feet high is standing in the middle of the space. When Zuyun first looked at it, he felt that the statue seemed to be coming to life. Well, Zuyun couldn't help but clap his hands without even looking to see if the statue looked like him. Mengwei couldn't help but use the power of the holy demon to cast his demon eye. "Zuyun, this golden body is very good." Hearing this, Zuyun was even more delighted and asked, "What should I do?" Mengwei said, "This is just a rough embryo. It has not been coated with spiritual gilding on the outside. You forced out the blood essence and poured it into the rough embryo of this statue. Good. Zuyun jumped up and landed on the golden body in the blink of an eye. In an instant, he felt that this space and the atmosphere had changed. He frowned slightly. Could it be that these people were dissatisfied with him? But Meng Wei was a bystander and laughed loudly. Zuyun, you can show your true face. Zuyun suddenly realized, laughed, and removed the talisman of changing the world from his face. At this moment, everyone's expressions first changed from anger to shock, and then from shock to ecstasy. I've seen Zhu Xian. In the small space, the sound continued to echo. Ha ha ha, Zuyun also laughed. Although the Nangong family left and destroyed his golden body, it was obvious that the other monks still respected him. No, it's reverence. With the performance of these people, Zuyun's confidence also surged. At the same time, I couldn't help but think about it in my heart. If you give this old man enough high-grade spiritual stones, can you let him replace all the golden statues in the Eastern mortal realm for you? But soon, this thought was thrown out of his mind. It is true that the statue is very good and the spiritual stone is enough. But Zuyun couldn't just come over and force out the blood essence. A person's blood essence is limited. Even if he reaches the integration stage, the amount of essence and blood is no different from that of the refining stage, the incarnation stage, or even the nascent soul stage. The difference is nothing more than the different levels of power contained in the blood essence. The loss of essence and blood is extremely slow to recover, and you can only rely on yourself to recover. Standing on the Tianling cap he had sculpted, Zuyun bit his fingertips and forced out a drop of blood. Under his control, the essence and blood fell into the forehead of the sculpture. Zuyun released the power of his soul, all condensing on this essence and blood. Before being injected into the statue, the blood essence encountered a strong resistance. Zuyun knew the relationship after just a brief thought. Plants, trees, monsters, and stones can all become immortals. And this statue was probably refined by too much spiritual power, resulting in a certain spirituality. No wonder, the old man said he had a way, and it seems that he really has some skills. Zuyun frowned, held his breath and calmed down, putting all his thoughts on this drop of blood. I am not me, how dare you stop my true body and soul? For no reason, Zuyun shouted angrily at the sculpture. Just so suddenly, this drop of essence and blood broke through the spiritual shield and sank directly into the center of the eyebrow. Moment. An extremely mysterious feeling immediately appeared in Zuyun's mind. At this time, he seemed to have a condescending view. Zuyunben was standing on top of the statue. But the angle of sight is completely different. But Zuyun, who had experienced the transformation stage, understood immediately. Through this drop of essence and blood, he seems to be integrated with the statue, so that he can borrow the eyes of the statue to look down below. The devout demon cultivators had no idea what was going on, and they didn't even think of looking up. It seemed that it would be a kind of blasphemy to look at Zuyun more than once. Of course, they couldn't detect such anomalies. What's more, he couldn't find that between his eyebrows, strands of golden threads shot out. The power of faith. These powers of faith first entered the sculpture, then transferred into Zuyun's zifa without any obstruction, and were then absorbed by the immortal soul hammer. Zuyun was immediately overjoyed. Is this the surprise? Meng Wei said. Before he could come to his senses, Meng Wei suddenly said, Zuyun, it's done, let them do the rest. Zuyun quickly fell down, and upon hearing the footsteps, the other monks stood up one after another, but still did not dare to look up. I leave this place to you, I still want to find Nangong Yin. Looking around, Zuyun asked the old man again, can you confirm that Nangong Yin went all the way east? Confirm, the villain dare not deceive Zhu Xian. The change of title is enough to show that Zuyun's reputation in his heart, and even in the hearts of the monks in the entire Demon Seal City, can no longer be erased. Perhaps Nangongyan's destruction of Zuyun's statue aroused public outrage and made these monks twist into a rope. It is also possible that Zuyun came to Demon Seal City in person not long after the statue was destroyed. The rest of the matter will be left to the Demon Seal City. Zuyunyi is eager to find Nangongyan. Secondly, even if he stayed, it would be of little use. We're almost there, do you feel any changes everywhere? A few days later, as the two approached the canyon, Zuyun's heart was in his throat. There is nothing unusual at the moment, but the spiritual power in Yunzhou seems to be spreading here. Zuyun's eyes were filled with light. He was afraid that while walking like this, he would suddenly see a large area of nightmare monsters. Fortunately, when we entered the canyon, what we saw before us was still the same as before. But Mengwei made Zuyun stop. There is evil spirit here. Mengwei whispered, and suddenly pulled Zuyun back and hid outside the entrance of the canyon. Zuyun was suddenly startled. He collected all his breath first, and then said, "Demon Qi? Isn't it demonic Qi?" "It's still demonic at the moment," Mengwei said, "let me take a look with the eyes of a holy demon." You know, nightmare demons, or nightmare demons, can control a variety of powers. Zuyun nodded and said with concern, "You also need to be careful." "I know, if I am discovered, I will definitely call you, and then you can take me into the immortal mansion. With the magic jade bed here, I can survive even if I have one breath left." Zuyun laughed dumbly. Mengwei had promised himself in advance that if something changed, there was no need to worry about her. "I know, if you are injured, I will go with you." Mengwei also nodded with a smile, and then carefully moved his body towards the entrance of the canyon. "I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills." Author, Banzhuan Xianxia. Chapter 1568. Zuyun just watched Mengwei disappear from his sight. In order to avoid being discovered by Nangongyan, he did not use his spiritual consciousness. Nangongyan was second, but the key was the countless nightmare monsters. If they attacked in groups, Zuyun didn't know if he would be able to deal with them. It's not that he can't run away, the problem is that if he runs away, then these nightmare monsters will spread throughout the mortal world, and they may even reach the spiritual world. It is conceivable that the damage they can cause will be greater than those of evil cultivators. Incomparable. At the same time, Zuyun also guessed that Nangong Tianli must be brewing a huge conspiracy. Even if he is dead, this conspiracy still has a certain inertia. However, after having a cup of tea, Mengwei's voice suddenly came from the direction of the canyon. "Zuyun, you can come here, it seems, I didn't see anyone." Zuyun's heart moved and he ran over using the secret of immortality. He didn't use chaos power, so he wasn't afraid of being discovered. When he turned around the canyon and saw Mengwei, he noticed a look of surprise on his face. "Did you find anything?" Zuyun ran over and asked in a low voice. "Yes, the barrier above the valley seems to have completely disappeared, but as far as I can see, those nightmare monsters have not climbed out of the valley." Zuyun said quickly, "That means, the people of the Nangong family have merged with the nightmare demons. If it was possible to catch them all in one fell swoop, Zuyun would certainly hope so. Looking back at that time, there was a nightmare demon in the mortal world, which caused chaos in the entire eastern mortal world. It can be seen from this that how destructive the nightmare monster is. Not to mention, these nightmare monsters have the demonic nature of extraterrestrial demons, and may be more difficult to deal with than nightmare monsters. I don't know how those nightmare demons from the ancestral land of the nightmare demons in the East Sheng realm were reproduced back then. Mengwei uses the power of the holy demon and is not easily discovered, and the same is true for Zuyun without using spiritual power. Let's go directly from the top of the mountain. From a high position, it will be easier to find each other's traces." Zuyun said something to Mengwei, and then started to go up the mountain. Sure enough, as Mengwei said, Zuyun easily reached the top of the mountain without any pressure. Looking into the distance, he saw an incredible scene. At this end of the valley, there is actually a huge sea area. There is no doubt that this must be the wild sea area. At the same time, the waves on the sea surface were all rippling in one direction. It was obvious that the East Mortal realm at this time was heading towards the spiritual world. Have you not connected to the spirit world yet? Zuyun murmured that Mengwei had told him about the situation here, but he didn't know that beyond the canyon was the sea. There are barriers in the four mortal realms and the spiritual world. Perhaps this valley is also one of the boundaries of the barriers. Zuyun, let's go there quickly. The place where those nightmare monsters are is an open space protruding out of the canyon. Mengwei also caught up at this time and found that Zuyun was looking at the sea in a daze, so he hurriedly reminded him. Let's go. If we can deal with them, maybe we don't have to rush to the fairy world. Zuyun said something, and the two looked at each other and smiled. They ran wildly with their backs exposed in the canyon. After several hours, they gradually slowed down. The demonic aura in the air became more and more obvious as they approached, and Zuyun's expression became solemn. Until they saw the dark influence, the two immediately lay down and took advantage of the mountain to hide. Wei, use your magic eyes to see what's going on there. Zuyun still didn't dare to use the chaos power indiscriminately, so he asked Mengwei to see it. Mengwei used the demon eye, and the power of the holy demon would not be leaked at all. She nodded slightly and poked her head out from her hiding place. I saw Nangang Yin. Mengwei's tone became deeper than anything else, but it made Zuyun couldn't help but become a little excited. What else? He asked quickly. There are also some nascent soul stagers from the Nangang family. In addition, I also saw Xiu'er. Xiu'er. Zuyun suddenly raised his voice, but under the cover of the sound of the waves and because the other party was so far away, there was no possibility of being discovered. Yes, Xiu'er. Mengwei took a deep breath and said, I don't know what they did, but anyway, Xiu'er was tied up, and it seemed that they were performing an ancient sacrificial method of extraterrestrial demons. Zuyun's face began to look ugly. He didn't know what the effect of this sacrificial method would be. Everything is unknown, so the possible dangers will be beyond his expectation. How about I give it a try first? Seeing Mengwei's helpless expression, Zuyun thought for a while and said. What can you do? The Lingdong pit in Yunzhou allowed them to reach the stage of becoming gods. But that doesn't mean they have an advantage. Hide it first, and I'll try it with the magic talisman. Zuyun immediately thought of the heaven-gathering thunder talisman, but he couldn't see it very clearly. But firstly, he was very good at using the heaven-gathering thunder talisman, and secondly, the consumption of the heaven-gathering spirit talisman on him was almost negligible. Even if the number is large, it is no exaggeration to say that if Zuyun keeps painting for 12 hours, it will not cause much damage to the body. Then you give it a try, and I'll take a look with my magic eye. If I find anything, I'll let you know. Mengwei thought for a moment, and the two of them performed their respective duties. Zuyun took a deep breath and stretched out his hands at the same time. The key to the heavenly thunder talisman lies in the heavenly thunder. This thunder in the sky is caused by the thunder produced by the way of heaven. But the heaven-gathering thunder talisman itself is just an ordinary talisman, but the extraterrestrial devil does not belong to this world, so it may be able to produce special effects. Just like when he was in Qingping Fairy Kingdom, he did the same to those monsters with the blood of the demon. In one breath, Zuyun could draw 10 spiritual talismans at the same time. These spiritual talismans soon turned into a bolt of lightning and soared into the sky. As streaks of lightning surged toward the sky, muffled thunder sounds gradually came from the sky. In the altar, Nangang Yin was presiding over the sacrifice. When he heard this voice, he couldn't help but frown and raised his head. Master, could it be that, he is going to impose a punishment from heaven? A nascent soul stage came over and whispered. Impossible, the ancestors have said that the method of sacrifice does not violate the laws of heaven here. Moreover, we are only sacrificing the blood of the descendants and then awakening those of the same race. If Zuyun were here, he would definitely be shocked. Nangongyan actually called those nightmare monsters the same race? Then why, these thunders seem to be. Before he finished speaking, there were two slender thunderbolts that crashed down, hitting those nightmare monsters that looked like stone sculptures. Boom! The lightning exploded, but there was not much movement. But the two nightmare monsters seemed to have suddenly lost their support and fell down. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1569. This scene caught everyone off guard, except Nangongxiu, who suddenly laughed out loud. If Mengwei hadn't seen clearly with his magic eyes, he would have thought that Nangongxiu had completely become the sacrifice this time and was already dead. Xiu'er, what are you laughing at? Do you have to go against your father and the teachings of your ancestors? Nangongyan turned his head suddenly, but at this moment, several more thunders fell. As fast as Zuyun, who is thunder-gathering talisman, is, so is the thunder falling here. While Nangongyan was scolding like this, several more statues of nightmare demons fell down. The ancestral teachings must be correct. Nangongxiu spoke, but her voice was extremely hoarse. Why is the ancestral teaching not correct? Nangongyan shouted back, and Xiu'er also closed her mouth and stopped talking. She slightly raised her head and looked at the sky. She knew that Zuyun was here. When she first met Zuyun, she was responsible for escaping with the magic seal weapon, while Zuyun was dealing with the master of the Silver Sword sect. The two of them were like this at that time, and they finally managed to survive until Yutangzi arrived. What are you looking at? Do you think God will save you? As more and more nightmare monsters fell down without warning, Nangongyan had no choice but to vent his anger on Nangongxiu. Unfortunately, Nangongxiu never spoke out again. No matter how much Nangongyan scolded her, she had no reaction. In that case, don't blame me for breaking up the relationship between father and daughter. These decisive words finally made Nangongxiu react. But it only made Nangongxiu look at him one more time, and then he looked up and saw the sky. Die, then die. Nangongyan suddenly felt as if he was going crazy, and formed a magic formula in his hand. In an instant, the altar began to spin in circles. Upon closer inspection, it turned out to be Nangongyan's original natal magic weapon. And Xiu'er's whole person was trapped in the magic weapon. There are dark red lines on the magic seal, which are obviously constantly absorbing Nangongxiu's blood. It seems that this magic seal is connected with Nangongxiu, and the blood will circulate around and finally return to Nangongxiu's body. Mengwei's beautiful eyebrows knit together tightly. Through what she could see through her magic eyes, she had roughly guessed what Nangongyan was going to do. The greatest possibility is to use the blood in Nangongxiu's body to awaken the countless nightmare monsters here. Even if the combat power of a single nightmare demon is not strong, when the number reaches a certain level, the consequences can be imagined. She knows better than Zuyun the horror of the nightmare. Other races may become nondescript after their bloodline is diluted. But the nightmare is different. Just like Nangong Tianli, his ancestors had monsters, demons, and people. And when he became the immortal emperor, he was like a master. If you have the intention to destroy the fairy world, it will be easy. It's just a pity that I don't know what he went through. In the end, only the immortal soul was left hiding in the fragments of the Dao glazed mirror, and finally died at the hands of Zuyun. In the sky, the dark clouds gradually turned from gray to black. From a distance, it looked like a huge storm had appeared on the wild sea. The thunder spread and gradually became one. Soon, the thunderbolts turned into dense power grids and thundered down. The thunder snakes continued to wreak havoc on the nightmare monsters in this clearing. Every time a thunderbolt hits accurately, a nightmare demon will fall down. But even Mengwei doesn't know life or death. But as more and more nightmare monsters fell down, the aimless Tianli also failed. Looking from a distance, Mengwei estimated that there were at most less than 1,000 nightmare demons still standing in place. As for the people of the Nangong family, even if these sky thunders are extremely harmful to them, they are still alive, so they can at least avoid them. The effectiveness of the heaven-gathering thunder talisman should not be so obvious. Mengwei murmured, turned around and said, "Zuyun, it's almost done, what should we do now?" Zuyun stopped what he was doing. He also knew that he was exposed, so he simply used the divine eye technique and looked over there. When he purified the chaotic power in his body to something close to immortal power, the effect of farsightedness was not much worse than Mengwei's magic eye. At this glance, he saw Nangong Xiu, who was trapped in the magic seal. "This is..." He was slightly startled, and his expression changed instantly. "Do you recognize it?" Mengwei looked at Zuyun's face and could guess a little bit from Zuyun's expression. "At that time, I was in the ascending immortal secret realm. It was very similar to the Demon Moon formation of the Demon Moon sect, but there were still some differences. The formation of the Demon Moon is to use the power of the Demon Moon for one's own use. At that time, Lin Yu wanted to use this method to completely control the Demon Moon. And through the red lines similar to blood on the magic seal, it was not difficult for Zuyun to see that it seemed to be absorbing some kind of power from Nangong Xiu's body. His first reaction was that there was a substance in Nangong Xiu's body that could awaken the nightmare. "Nangong Yin. I want to wake up all these nightmare monsters. Stop him, let's kill him now." Zuyun's eyes sharpened. Based on what he knew before his eyes, he could roughly confirm that the nightmare demon had not yet woken up. In other words, he only needs to deal with a few demon cultivators from the Nangong family. Although I don't know what the other party's strength is now, Zuyun has at least broken through to the integration stage. I believe that as time goes by, after the spiritual pit of Yunzhou or the spiritual world is connected, his realm will no longer be restricted. No matter how strong Nangong Yin is, can he be stronger than him? This may be the last chance to destroy the nightmare monster. Go! Zuyun shouted, and while withdrawing the divine eye technique, he took off. There was still a few miles between them, but his hands were already ready to go. "Extraterritorial demon? Humph, then let you taste this fist from the fairyland first." Suzaku fist. At such a distance, Suzaku is the fastest, and it is more suitable for the current scene than Qinglong fist. Clang. Similar to the sound of a phoenix, Suzaku suddenly jumped out of Zuyun's fist. The firelight dyed the sky, driving away the thunderclouds that were caused by the Jushin Leifu. It was also because Zuyun stopped the Jushin Leifu that the dark cloud slowly dissipated. Boom! In the eyes of the crowd, the fire reflected fear from their pupils. "Zuyun, it's Zuyun coming. Get out of the way first, get out of the way. Why did he come to the mortal world? And found this place?" Amid Nangong Yin's heart-wrenching roar, all the demon cultivators retreated. At this moment, Zuyun felt the demonic energy rising into the sky, and the stench that belonged to the nightmare demon. "It's true," Zuyun murmured, and punched again. Blue Dragon Fist. Two phantoms from the ancient mythical beast slammed into the open space. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzhuan Xianxia. Chapter 1570. For the people of the Nangong family, it was fortunate that Zuyun's realm was not completely released, so they were able to dodge the two most threatening moves of the four-sided divine beast fist. Zuyun whispered, "Wu Ya, I'll go rescue Xiu'er, you kill Nangongyin first." Nangongyin was the mastermind of this magic array. If he was killed, the others would not be a problem. As for these nightmare monsters that were like sleeping, Zuyun didn't know what to do for the time being, but at least after eliminating the crisis, there would be plenty of time to deal with them. "Zuyun, be careful." Meng Wuya also took out the magic knife from his ring, and the red light flashed, and the holy demon aura also emerged from the blade. You are. Nangongyin felt the murderous intent and a familiar breath at the same time. "Me." Meng Wuya showed a demonic smile, and while bullying, he raised his left hand, and a fire dragon jumped out straight, opened his mouth and roared away. "Skyfire dragon. Don't even think about destroying our ancestors' deeds." Nangongyin felt the fierce murderous intent, and what shocked him a little was that he couldn't see through Meng Wui's realm at all. Although he couldn't see through Zuyun's fusion period, Meng Wei was the kind of person who had no sense of realm at all. This was because Meng Wei was a holy demon body, and even if he had a realm, it was not something that he, a person from the lower world, could understand. Under such circumstances, Nangongyin had no means to deal with Meng Wei at all. Facing the strange magic knife that attacked, he could only keep retreating while calling on the rest of the clansmen to come to help. "Demon girl, die." The demon cultivators rushed over and surrounded Meng Wei in the middle. Meng Wei smiled charmingly, "Demon girl. It seems that I haven't heard this name for a long time." After that, she raised the magic knife to her mouth and even licked it with her tongue. Humph. Nangongyin's magic seal was used for sacrifice, and he had no means to deal with it. While the clansmen surrounded him, he left. "Stop her, I'll stop Zuyun from destroying our sacrifice." As soon as the voice fell, these clansmen of the Nangong family rushed up like dead soldiers, all took out their own life magic weapons, and smashed them on Meng Wei's head. Magic eye. Meng Wei used the power of the holy devil in her eyes, and she immediately saw the flaws in the encirclement of these people. At the same time, Zuyun was carefully observing the patterns in the magic seal and comforting Nangong Xiu. "Xiu'er, I'm here to save you, don't worry." "Zuyun," Xiu'er smiled bitterly, and said, "I have merged with this magic seal. You can't save me, so destroy me." Hearing such a hoarse voice, Zuyun was also stunned. But then, the magic seal suddenly burst into blood, and it also flew into the air for a foot, pressing down on Zuyun. "Zuyun, get out of the way." An extremely strange and bloody breath came, accompanied by Nangong Xiu's hysterical scream, and Zuyun's figure flashed quickly. "Zuyun, why do you want to ruin my clan's business?" Nangongyin's eyes were red, and the magic seal slammed down on the place where he stood before. "Nangongyin, then why do you want to destroy my human race?" Zuyun asked harshly, and returned the words to Nangongyin almost intact. "Ha ha ha," Nangongyin laughed wildly, and controlled the magic seal to continue to smash towards Zuyun. "Human ants, it should be your honor to be able to contribute to my nightmare clan. Nangongyin, you forgot that you also have human blood in your body." Zuyun's figure flashed. If it wasn't for saving Nangong Xiu, he would never give Nangongyin a chance to make a move. "Yes, I have human blood in me, and this is what I am most indignant about now. However, when all of our upper clan members wake up, I will be able to find a way to get rid of this despicable bloodline." Born as a human, you actually call it despicable? Through Nangongyin's words, Zuyun remembered two words: Nightmare Clan and Upper Clan. Nightmare Clan should be all creatures with nightmare bloodline. And the Upper Clan may be called this because of the purity of the bloodline. Obviously, Nangongyin called the nightmare monsters here the Upper Clan because of the blood relationship of these nightmare monsters. And he called his bloodline despicable, so it can be seen that he belongs to the lower clan. Humans are the spirits of all things, how can they be called lower? Zuyun couldn't help but feel angry. If Nangongyin didn't have human bloodline, it would be fine, but... Just when he was thinking about it, an idea suddenly appeared in Zuyun's mind. Nangong Tianli, with the blood of the three tribes of demons, monsters, and humans, eventually became the immortal emperor. If the blood is used to divide people into different levels, then Nangong Tianli is also a member of the lower tribe. This is contrary to the result he guessed now. Suddenly, Zuyun was a little confused. But in just a moment, the magic seal suddenly rotated and became like a small mountain, as if to suppress Zuyun here. Ha ha ha, you are distracted in such a battle. Nangongyan's sneer came, and Zuyun suddenly came back to his senses. Looking at the shadow that appeared above his head, he was not afraid at all. Thinking back to that time, the ancestor of the Lin family suppressed him with 100 purgatory mountains, but this was just a magic seal, which could not be compared with it. Even though the magic seal had already locked him with energy, Zuyun responded calmly and blasted it into the sky with the palm of his hand. Suanweo fist. The Suanweo giant Zuyun's fist suddenly came out. After resisting the falling magic seal, the tortoise shell also penetrated out, blocking Zuyun's head. It is not difficult for Zuyun to punch with both hands at the same time, let alone a punch from behind. White Tiger Fist. Zuyun held up the sky with one hand, and blasted out with the other hand. Roar. The tiger had not yet taken shape, but the roar was already there. A big white tiger jumped out, like a tiger out of its cage, and pounced on Nangongyin. At such a close distance, Nangongyin fully controlled the demon seal again. Crack. The bloody mouth directly bit Nangongyin into two pieces. Cough cough cough. Nangongyin fell to the ground, and his disconnected lower body did not move at all, but his upper body still managed to control the magic seal and continued to press down on Zuyun. Die! Zuyun roared angrily, and Baihu slapped a heavy claw. Bang! Under this palm, Nangongyin's chest collapsed immediately. Master! Over there, the other Yuaniinki who were clinging to Menghui also saw the scene and let out heartbreaking roars. They wanted to come to help, but their flaws were revealed. They were stabbed through the body by Menghui with a magic knife, and then all their energy and blood were sucked away, turning them into mummies. Nangongyin, you deserve to die too. After the white tiger disappeared, Zuyun took out the immortal soul hammer with the magic mark on his head. The golden light flashed, and then he smashed it down hard. Boom! Nangongyin was shattered into pieces. The ground shook, and the waves in the sea surged into the sky. Zuyun, look! Menghui pointed far to the west, where a familiar mountain range appeared, Tianweishan.